Today, prosecutor Susan Hoffinger called for a sidebar about the ongoing presence of Donald Trump's Republican entourage in the courtroom. Here is how that played out. This is Hoffinger. I noticed that some of his guests are already here today with their security detail, but we would just ask that they not be allowed to file in the middle of Mr. Blanche's cross-examination. It's with their security detail for the jury and the witnesses to see. The court, yes, I would advise that that not happen. Todd Blanche. Your Honor, I have less than zero control over what is happening on anything or anyone that's behind me when I am crossing a witness. I don't know what, I don't have any control over that. I mean, they are members of the public. To be clear, these lawmakers are not sitting in public seats. They're sitting in seats reserved for Donald Trump's defense team. Joining me now is California Congressman Adam Schiff, member of the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman Schiff, thank you for being here. I imagine you have some thoughts about your fellow House colleagues who have been trekking up to New York City to stand outside of the courtroom and weigh in on this trial.
I have so many thoughts, and, let me start with the Speaker, because I have to say I was flabbergasted that he would go and make that pilgrimage, stand outside that courthouse, and basically lie about what was going on inside the building. It's bad enough that he lacks the self-respect that he feels he needs to go and kiss the ring in such a public and debasing way, but also for him to denigrate the justice system, for him to knowingly make the false claim that this trial was designed to keep Trump off the campaign trail. He knows better than that, but it shows, the most powerful, top-ranking Republican in the Congress, will do anything for Donald Trump. And for those others, the Matt Gaetzes, the Anna Paulina Lunas, I mean, these are crazy people, and you don't expect much more. But I will say this, too. The fact that some of them are going into the courtroom, this is a way to tamper with the jury. This is a way to essentially communicate to the jury that we believe this is political. We're here to show support for the president. That's making a statement without having to say a word. And that is distressing for much the same reason.
Congressman, because you singled out the Speaker, I do have to ask, you were one of 163, I think it's 163 Democrats who voted to effectively save Speaker Johnson from a motion to vacate. Do you have any regrets about that? And would you do it again if there was another call to oust him from his position?
I don't regret it because two reasons. One, we need a governing entity in the House. They have the majority. As long as they have the majority, we need somebody sitting in that Speaker's chair. I want to get things done for my constituents. We've got major challenges with housing, with the cost of child care and other things. I want to get things done. You can't do that without a Speaker in the chair. Second, I didn't believe it was right to essentially vacate him from the chair because he finally got around to approving Ukraine aid. So for both those reasons, I don't have any regrets. But I have to say, it's still difficult to stomach when you see him do what he did standing in front of that courthouse. And it just shows you that there is no one in that Republican conference anymore, not since Liz Cheney left, not since Adam Kinzinger left, that has any real thorough commitment to the Constitution, their oath, our system of justice. It's all about keeping power, gaining power, and no debasement too great before their supreme leader.
Yeah, well, it's worth noting that the cynical moves did not end at the New York City courthouse. A lot of those same members had to travel back to Washington to vote to hold the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, in contempt for refusing to hand over the tapes of the conversations that President Biden had with the special counsel, Robert Hur. The 1-2 punch.
You're absolutely right.
The 1-2 punch of standing out there. Sitting, yeah. Tell me more about that endeavor.
Well, I was sitting in that Judiciary Committee as a member of the committee as they were bringing up this bogus effort to hold the Attorney General in contempt for not giving audio tapes of something they already had the transcript for. It's come to that pathetic a motion to hold the Attorney General of the United States in contempt for, so they can give tapes to his campaign team for campaign commercials. That is Donald Trump's campaign. But meanwhile, you had Republican members missing from the whole debate because they're in New York. You had members like Matt Gaetz who missed the vote completely. Shows you where their priority is. They don't think it's important enough to stay in Washington to vote on holding the Attorney General in contempt if it has to compete with being a spectator in the hush money payment to a porn star trial of Donald Trump. And, you know, the thing that I find so shocking about all this is I have to imagine, and I made this point in committee, that if you asked Mike Johnson 10 or 15 years ago whether he could ever see himself standing in front of the courthouse vouching for the character, effectively, of someone charged with paying hush money payments to a porn star, he would have never imagined himself doing such a crass thing. And yet there he is. And it's one small surrender of, you know, morality followed by another slightly bigger surrender followed by another surrender. And pretty soon you're standing outside the courthouse vouching for the character of someone paying hush money to a porn star.
Yeah, speaking of surrender of ethics, I do want to get your reaction to the New York Times reporting tonight that Justice Samuel Alito was reportedly flying a Stop the Steal flag in front of his house in and around January 17th of 2021. You were on the House January 6th committee. You know this saga quite well. Do you have a thought on that, given the role the Supreme Court has played and is playing around January 6th and holding those accountable?
This is why Americans have no trust in the Supreme Court anymore. They see a justice with a flag, essentially a Stop the Steal flag, outside their home, presiding, sitting in cases affecting the investigation into that effort to incite the attack on the Capitol. You have Justice Thomas, whose wife was in text messages and email communications about this effort to overturn the election, sitting and voting against, as a member of the court, voting against providing documents to Congress that might implicate his spouse. Not just a perceived conflict, but a real conflict. And this is why people have no confidence in the court. And there at the moment is no recourse for this. They can violate the code of ethics because there is no enforceable code of ethics for the Supreme Court. But I think, as you were discussing earlier with respect to Alito, he's proud of his disdain for public opinion. He is, more than willing to wear his partisan colors on his sleeve, or in this case, on the flagpole.
Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you for joining me tonight. Really appreciate your time, sir.
We have a lot of congressmen and some senators down today, and they're all up in arms over this. They can't even believe it. We have quite a few congressmen. I guess you'll be talking to them in a little while.
Day after day now, Trump surrogates have been setting up shop outside the court and talking to the press. Trump himself is barred by his gag order from talking about all sorts of people connected to this trial. He is also barred from directing others to talk about those people, which is what makes all of this so concerning. When Trump's latest batch of surrogates spoke today, they again attacked two individuals the judge has specifically identified as off limits: Michael Cohen and the judge's own daughter.
Well, I'm honored to be here with my colleagues from the House Freedom Caucus, where we watched Michael Cohen get dog-walked through the series of lies he has told.
Perjurer in chief, Michael Cohen.
Mr. Cohen admitted repeatedly that he lied.
To Cohen, who admitted to lying to members of Congress. Michael Cohen. Seeing the lack of credibility from Michael Cohen.
We would be remiss if we did not mention this corrupt judge, this judge whose own family is making six figures off of Democrat politics.
We have a judge whose daughter.
A corrupt judge whose daughter.
A judge is his own daughter.
The judge's daughter.
That's the judge's daughter.
All of that clearly breaks the judge's gag order if Trump indeed directed it. So the question now is, did he?
This gag order is to ensure that he cannot defend himself fairly. So we're here to have his back. We're here to defend him. We are President Trump's voice. We have his back. He will ultimately be proven innocent. Thank you.
Joining me once again are my colleagues Rachel Maddow and Lawrence O'Donnell. Rachel, the contention here is these people here are here as members of the public. I know you have been to the courtroom, and I hear it's a difficult thing. Can you talk a little bit about what that process was like for you, getting seats and how coveted those seats were?
It's a big, long line, and you have to wait forever, and there's tons of security, and it blows out your whole day. And I mean, Lawrence has been doing it every day. It's no easy thing. It did, I think, cost some of those members of Congress votes today in D.C. I mean, I have to say, I'm a big believer in people showing up to court. And if you know somebody who's on trial and you believe in their innocence, or whether or not you believe in your innocence, you just want to support them, being there for them, I think that's a good thing. There's a reason that our courtrooms are open to the public. There's a reason that our judicial system is a transparent one, so everybody can see the proceedings and everybody can show up to support somebody if they know is involved in the system. But if you are a, public official, a prominent person, the kind of person who's going to speak to the cameras when you walk out during the morning break, the sort of normal course of events is to say, I'm here to support my friend or my colleague or my boss or the guy who I want to hire me to be vice president, whatever it is. I'm here to support X person. I believe in X person's innocence, and I believe the jury is going to see that truth too. And I wish these charges had never been brought, but I believe that this is going to be borne out in the end, and everybody will see that my friend, my colleague, my boss is innocent. Like, that's all good. That's all normal. Instead, what you're getting is these members of Congress saying, we're here to support him, and the American legal system is illegitimate and corrupt. And the judge is corrupt, and let me tell you about the judge's family. And that is just a wholly different thing. It is a hard thing to have people in very high office committing crimes in this country. It was hard with Nixon. It was hard with Agnew. It's hard with Trump. There's a reason that sitting presidents can't get prosecuted. Like, it's all very difficult. But when instead you've got a political party saying the American legal system should be gotten rid of because it's corrupt and the people involved in it are corrupt and bad and evil and persecuting you and me, that is something totally different. That is corrosive to the legal system at a minimum, and potentially fundamentally destructive to it if that's going to become the new platform on which the Republican Party makes the case to the American people that they should be put back in full power.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many levels at which this is appalling, Lawrence. There's the big picture that Rachel's just outlining. There's the smaller picture of what it's doing to potential witnesses in this trial. I mean, there was a whole back and forth about these surrogates being in the trial during cross-examination, walking by. Michael Cohen has to walk by them. I mean, going out there and impugning Michael Cohen and then sitting in the courtroom as he's testifying. Can you talk a little bit about the sort of net effect that this is having as you go to this trial every day?
In the courtroom, no effect at all. The old parliamentary phrase, backbenchers. That's what they became because there were too many of them today. There's a row in the front behind Donald Trump for supporters like this, and there's usually not more than 2 or 3 of them who ever show up. But there were so many of them that they were literally sent to the back bench of the courtroom that's against the wall, farthest away from the hero. And most of them were people who I didn't know who they were. I mean, I knew they were members of Congress because there's a button there, but it's not like they're the most prominent members of Congress. Some of them I knew who they were. But they have absolutely no effect on the proceedings. I will say what that shot of them outdoors, that's the largest collection of Trump supporters who have ever gathered at the publicly available gathering place for all Trump supporters to come. You'll notice there's no one behind them. NYPD has reserved a spot there for citizens from all over America or New York City or even Lower Manhattan, voters, Trump supporters, Biden voters. Anyone can gather there. No one comes. Donald Trump wanted them to come. They refused to come. Those people came.
That's who showed up.
And that's his biggest crowd ever. Here's an opportunity they had because, what they do is they come in for the morning session. They leave at the first recess, which is, like 11 a.m., and they never come back. Matt Gaetz is the only one who came back. But now they've been in the courtroom. They've been there for 2 hours. You watched Judge Merchan. Instead of coming out and talking about his daughter, why don't you come out and talk about his rulings? Because you just watched him make some rulings. Yeah. You watched him rule on several objections. And you watched him overrule the prosecutor's objections a number of times. Did you agree with that? You watched him sustain some objections. Do you understand why he sustained those objections? Because what Todd Blanche just said was argumentative and not a question. Do you understand what that objection was about? So one of the great tragedies of this trial not being televised is that they get to go out there and lie about how this trial is going, because none of them have ever in their lives seen, and they never will see, a more fair judge than Judge Merchan. And any televised version of this trial would prove that every minute of the trial.
Yeah, Chris Hayes referred to him as a picture of equanimity.
Yes.